Welcome to the No Budget Indie Filmcast, where we dip into the independent film universe to highlight those little films that you might not have heard about elsewhere. Will you agree with our panel, or will our panel agree with each other? Tune in to find out. My name is Milo Dennison, and with me, as always, are my most excellent co-hosts, Claire Milan.
Hello.
And Cahal Feeney.
Hello.
All right, Cahal, what's on the agenda for this week?
So this week, our film is Decadence and Downfall, the Shah of Iran's Ultimate Party. This is a documentary from 2016, what was probably the party of the century, of the last century. As one contributor put it, with a slight kind of overstatement, that they spent the entire budget of Switzerland for 2 days in the desert. In some ways, it's hard to know where to start with this film. Like last year, we reviewed an Iranian short film, Umbra, and we talked about the difference in personal freedoms that people enjoyed since before and after the Islamic Revolution of 1979. Well, there's no doubt this party brought upon, or helped to bring upon, that revolution. Like the Shah of Iran, his regime was no doubt corrupt and vicious and inept, but the sheer amount of money, sheer waste of money that went into this party definitely precipitated his downfall. And saying all that, it was a fascinating occasion. It was like a veritable who's who of world leaders and presidents. It was supposed to be about Iran's prestige, but if you look at some of the people who were there, like Ceausescu of Romania and Suharto of Indonesia and Ferdinand and Imelda Marcos, it was like a den of despots. As a documentary, it was a delight of detail. From the spraying of the desert to kill the snakes and the scorpions of the non-human variety anyway, to the importation of 50,000 swallows to this orchard that they planted that all died in the heat, to the venerable guests allegedly stealing the radios at the end. And then, of course, you had Orson Welles popping up to be the official narrator for the commission film. He must have got a pretty penny for that, but you can only conclude that he sold his soul. So all in all, a very interesting watch.
Well, Orson Welles sold his soul a lot of time, his voice a lot of times.
Okay.
Like he did commercials in the States. He would use his voice in commercials and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, he could be bought pretty easily, I think, unfortunately.
His voice is very distinctive, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
oh yeah.
When I heard the narration in the documentary, like of him narrating the whole thing, yeah, it's such a distinctive voice. You know, it's Orson Welles. You know, so it's,
definitely.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too, because obviously I knew about the fall of and all of that, but it's interesting seeing the different things that contributed to that, because it kind of starts off, it seems like he kind of starts off with somewhat good intent in life when he's younger and when he's first put in place when his father has to abdicate and all that. And as time goes on, it's like he becomes more evil. And I think even one of the people that they interviewed talked about that is like, you know, the more you give somebody ultimate power and they just become corrupt with it. And this is a prime example of that situation type of a happening. But it is interesting, if he had not thrown this party, would he have been overthrown still? Or was this that kind of breaking point that pushed people over the limit? I think a lot of it had to do with his religious stuff. I mean, it's such a religious country, and the fact that he was really persecuting a lot of Muslims in the country is probably the majority of it. But this might have been that kind of last straw, possibly.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I know very little about Iran, just the more modern stuff, you know. So it's quite interesting. I sat down to watch this earlier, and yeah, I think I'm with you, Milo, as well. I don't think this party caused it, but it was the last straw, probably, it looks like. But I found the documentary, it was all like, they didn't really explain that as much, because obviously it was focused on the party. But I found it a little bit one-sided and disjointed. Like it looked like they kind of made him out to be really, really evil, you know. And I don't, was he completely that way? Because he tried to bring in a lot of, it looked like he did a lot of good stuff as well, you know, with bringing in kind of Western values and but then it was quite interesting. There was a woman, I think she was like a maid in waiting, I think,
Lady
and
in
she
waiting, I
had
think they
a
call her.
lady in waiting. Sorry, a lady in waiting, and she was she had a Muslim cook, and she used to turn up in her bikini and ask him to, like whatever order what she wanted to cook, and he'd always turn away, and she didn't understand, but she forgot that Iran is a Muslim country, you know. So there was quite little good snippets of that, but one thing that struck me was the absolute extravagance.
Mm.
It was crazy, like absolutely mind-blowing, and it was such a waste, while it showed poverty as well on the other side. And the way they were their censorship as well, like the books were censored, yet they still had this kind of Western ideology. But the whole extravagance of it really blew my mind completely. You
Yeah.
know, I even see Prince Philip in there. The Queen didn't go, but her husband went with Princess Anne. You know, and it's sickening to see all these dictators all together.
Yeah, I know.
And it was crazy. And one thing I kept thinking was, oh my God, if there was an attack, this is the perfect place to
Yeah.
have it. And they were saying that they went out and it went completely black for 3 minutes after they put on this kind of presentation, and then fireworks went off. The people thought it was a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe they
but
should have been, you know, like it could have might have
yeah, it was like, I wasn't that
solved a
struck
lot
by
of
them. Oh my
problems in a
God.
lot of countries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
clean out, thin out the herd a little bit.
Oh, and then they closed down the country. Like the airports are closed, universities are closed when these people came to this thing, like this party. But it seems such a waste as well, didn't it?
Yeah,
It's just
like you know, ironically, at the beginning of the film, when they were planning the party, they they said, okay, well, they had two options, and well, one of them, I forget the name of the other town. One of them was Persepolis, and you know, there was no hotel. They were going to
Yeah.
this hotel, and there was no hotel. I mean, like it just goes to show you how they just didn't have a clue, like about
yeah,
the wider society, how people were living. Yeah. I get the
it's
feeling too that
crazy.
the Shah of Iran, that he was naive. I think he didn't really know what was going on, like because he had people below him, you know, and his generals. It was a military dictatorship, so he was probably totally removed from, you know, what was going on. And at the end, um, when he saw the video, he says, you know, where's all the Iranian people? What a like almost brainless comment to make. I mean, has he been asleep like for the last, you know,
And it's
20
weird,
years or
like it's like these people, they just want to have a party. Like you see Princess Grace of Monaco, do you know? And it's like, God, like these people, do they realize what they're doing? And I know there was some people did boycott it. I don't know who exactly, but I
you
know
didn't mention
some
that?
heads of state
Mhm.
and I don't know but it's like, do they realize like what they're attending? Do you know, that this extravagant, massive, overblown party, and this country is suffering poverty. It's crazy.
Yeah,
It's crazy to think of.
yeah. I watched this documentary during the week as well. It's called it's free to watch online if anybody wants to watch it. Called End of Empire. It's a series of documentaries that ITV made, and one of the episodes was about Iran, and they talked about the revolution, or the coup that took place in 1953, and it was engineered by the British and the Americans because they wanted the oil, they wanted control of the oil, and the guy who was the prime minister, which they mentioned it here, Afghan Mossadegh or something like that, um, that he had nationalized the oil, and like the British and the Americans particularly weren't happy with this. And what changed it, uh, what like kind of, you know, gave them the sort of the what led one of the reasons that led to the revolution was that there was two elections, in one in Britain and one in the US, and they brought in a conservative and a Republican government. And so it was Eisenhower and Churchill. Actually, Churchill got back in again, So they they kind of like put the gears in motion to launch this revolution. And one of the things I picked up from that documentary was that the Shah himself was quite weak. That if it was just up to him, it would never have happened. But they kind of like they pulled the strings from behind the scenes. So
I
I mean,
wonder was
I
he
wouldn't be
set
too
up?
soft on him, because he
Yeah,
he went along with it, and
yeah. But it
he
looked
he
like,
benefited.
so I was reading afterwards, kind of Googled some stuff. Was he set up by people? Because it kind of looked like that, you know, and because it
Was
looked like,
the Shah set up?
yeah, yeah, because they're saying that like did some Western countries set him up because they didn't want Iran to be too westernized or too powerful. So they knew that if he did this whole extravagant party, that he wouldn't look good, you know,
I
and
don't know. I mean,
yeah,
they did, it certainly backfired.
didn't it?
But
Well, or did it? Like it actually there's one point in it where they're all queuing up to go for dinner and there's a bit of a backlog. Do you know that bit?
yeah, that was
And it
funny.
kind of reminded me like it's like, do you ever see that documentary, The Fire Festival? I don't know if
Yeah,
you ever saw it.
I
It was
saw it.
like, it's on Netflix, but it's about this festival, and these organizers promised all these cool like singers and rappers and everything, and they had tents. I think it was in some island somewhere, like the
Yeah.
Bahamas or somewhere like that. And it was a complete and utter disaster. And that kind of came to my mind for a second when I was watching this little bit. Because all these kings and queens and then prime ministers, there's a massive queue apparently. And then there's just like a sandstorm outside. And even when he's making a speech, there was like a sandstorm. And someone thought it was like on purpose, like all this sand kind of spiraled up, But I just thought, oh God, imagine all these kings and queens who are used to being the center of attention, being stuck in a queue in the middle of a desert, you
But
know?
it seems to have
Yeah.
gone off without a hitch, more or less, apart from that
Yeah.
incident, like when they were queuing outside. So organizationally,
Yeah,
it
it's
seems to
something
work.
that could easily have been a complete and utter disaster.
Mm,
Like just and even the extravagance of the food
yeah.
is just absolutely mind blowing. Like it was fascinating to see for myself as someone who doesn't know anything really about Iran, and I'm kind of curious now. It's like when we watched that film Umbra, and I really want to see more like Iranian films, and I'm kind of curious now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if he was manipulated into organizing this party to kind of engineer his downfall. That just seems too far fetched, from my
Yeah.
opinion.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I have a hard time believing it, but you never know.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, should we rate it?
Okay, dokie.
Yeah.
All right. I'll go first since you guys usually go first, or one of you does. I'm gonna go 4. Yeah, I'm gonna go 4. I mean, it was really fascinating documentary. It was a bit one-sided, I think, in some, probably, but yeah, I'm going for him. I liked it.
Yeah, for me, it was kind of it's a weird one to rate because it kind of shows history. It's out of real footage. Well, I think it was a little bit one-sided. I'd love it to be fleshed out a bit more. And so for me, it's like a 3 stars. But definitely people should watch it. It is a fascinating documentary.
Okay. Well, the title of the film is the Shah of Iran's Ultimate Party, so it is about the party. And I think as a film, it was just fascinating to watch. I mean, if they wanted to go into the background, it would have taken another hour. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I will give it 4.5.
That's good.
Wow.
You know
Yeah.
what? Actually, this would really work as a series, wouldn't it? Because then you'd get into the background. If you split it up, probably it would
Yeah,
work.
they could do
Yeah.
that as a series. Well, there you have it. No budget filmcast audience. Let us know what you think of the film via our social medias at No Budget Show on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. We'll, of course, throw a link to the film in the show notes because it is on YouTube. Is that right? Yeah, we watched it on YouTube. It is on YouTube, so we'll throw a link out there for you. And with that, we will say, see you next time. Goodbye.
But